Here's the fact of the matter. You work with some bad apples against worse apples because we did not inherit this world. This world is a very fucked up place, and we have to take all the help that we can get. And in order for us to secure a world that's safe for democracy, we have to be proactive, we have to be strong, and we have to be based, and we have to get real.
Because you're such a weak-willed man.
But like, living under fascism for millions of generations
right?
in perpetuity with no hope. You're talking about Obama.
Invasion. Yeah.
Right, but I went back and I talked about Saddam Hussein was originally installed in his 20s.
Because you're a disingenuous hacker.
Okay, no. So the topic is, should we use nuclear weapons? Let me just be clear. That is the topic. Should we use nuclear weapons? A very interesting topic, to say the least. Let's bring him in. Hey, welcome you two. Welcome.
Yo.
Happy.
Here, let's flip and go.
No, wait, give me a second here. Now I'm having some computer. What is going on? I don't know. We're good, maybe.
It's Kevin working with the CIA to hack your computer, Rob.
Of course.
Yeah. CIA, Mossad, Deep State, all those guys.
He's deep with Mossad. He's deep with Mossad. My goodness. I'm happy to have you both here, though. And I gotta say, this is we did not plan this around the Ukraine situation. I just want to make that clear for everybody at home. It is a topic me and Kevin have debated before, so this is not at all about specifically the Ukraine situation. Many people have asked me to host specifically a Ukraine debate on Hippy Dippy Championship. I felt uncomfortable due to the nature of the show about hosting like a fun kind of championship style debate about an active ongoing war where people are dying right now, where Moore is talking about something, in my opinion, even though Kevin will not agree with me, talking about something that in my opinion will never probably happen. Us using these nuclear weapons for strategic capacity, I think is more less, I think, obscene. So I would like to welcome both of these people for the mystery match. I mean, you guys being the mystery opponent, I don't think anybody expected this matchup at all. I would say even you both didn't expect this matchup.
It's true.
So I'm excited for you guys to go back and forth. The topic again is, should we use nuclear weapons? A hell of a topic. I'm sure everybody in my chat is in Kevin's corner. So we're going to allow, since Rob's having technical issues, are you fine with me giving Kevin the opening statement?
It's fine. It's
okay. Your audio right now, one second. It's very scuffed, as I could say.
What's just to let you know what happened is, I don't know what it is, and it must be a heating issue. Anytime I'm streaming and I try to bring up a video or something, it crashes on me and then it resets all my audio and stuff. So yeah.
Got you. Okay. So I'll give you
that
time
should be
to.
Better.
Right now,
okay,
it should be better.
Does it sound better now?
No, it does not.
Okay. Okay. You go ahead, leave Kevin go. I'll figure it out.
Okay, got you. Kevin, you can start us off.
Okay, let's go. It's great to be here. Thanks to Dylan for having me on. Yeah, here we go. Hippy Dippy Championship. Let's go. I'm Kevin Castley, host of Superpower Broadcasting, stream 7 days a week, every day, Twitch, YouTube. Follow me over there. I'm on Twitter at Kevin Castley. I'm here obviously representing the, generally speaking, the less popular position, though it's not as unpopular as people might think. Somewhat recent polling found that about 30% of Americans agree with me on this with respect to North Korea. And I'm making the case tonight that a nuclear first strike is in the interest of the United States with respect to North Korea, and that in terms of a strategic capacity, as Roger Wicker said about a month ago, nuclear weapons should always be on the table. That doesn't necessarily mean that you use them, but to tell the world that you won't use them sends the message that, look, you might have them, but they're not really a deterrent, because a deterrent, it only exists if you have the capacity to use it and you have the will to use it. And if you don't have either of those, you can have the will to use all you want, but if you don't have any, it's not going to work. And if you have 8,000 or 7,000, but you have no will to ever use it, and the enemy knows that, then it's not going to work either. So deterrence relies on having a willingness to use it. And in the case of North Korea specifically, the conditions there with respect to their ambitions and with respect to their objectives vis-a-vis South Korea, it requires the use of relatively low yield tactical ground penetrating nuclear weapons such as the B-61, I believe Mod 12 version, to take out their deep command and control center and their nuclear sites before they can launch. Because we're in a situation with North Korea specifically where the alternative is they launch at us or we lose South Korea. So that's basically all I got to say right now. I know we talked, maybe we could get to Ukraine or whatnot, but I don't know. So this is what I got to offer. And I got to say, yeah, it might not look great optics wise or anything. What's worse is getting hundreds of millions of people killed because we don't have the willingness to take out that regime. So thank you.
Okay. Rob, you can also go. I didn't schedule this for, by the way, I'll just throw this out there because both of you, my audience and everybody loved your guys' last debate. If you want, we can make this a cage match if you want, if you guys know the cage match rules, but we can also just keep it a regular match if you want.
Doesn't matter.
What's cage match rules?
So cage match rules is, let's say I'm trying to moderate because you're talking over each other. You both for 2 occasions can say cage match and I can't moderate. And that means you can just go ham. Of course, but you still have to follow Twitch TOS.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay.
Fine.
We have
It's
2
more
Sports
entertaining for
man.
the audience. That's
Okay,
fine.
that means this is now the second cage match of the night. We just doubled up on our cage matches. Rob, you can do your introductions.
All right. Yeah, thanks for being here. Even though I despise the majority of Kevin's opinions, I'm glad that he could join me for this debate. Yeah, so I was unaware that it was going to be specific to North Korea, but that's fine. The topic was...
Well, the topic is not specific to North Korea, but...
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
he just
right.
made it there.
So the topic was just, should we use nuclear weapons? That's a vague topic, so I'm more than happy to talk specifically about what Kevin's saying. The reason that's vague is because I don't think even someone who deplores sort of interventionism and stuff like me could say absolutely no. For example, if the United States is on its last leg and nuclear weapons are being detonated in the United States, of course, that would be a time that we would be justified in retaliation to use nuclear weapons. But we're talking about first strikes. We're talking specifically about North Korea. Fine. More than happy to take that debate. No, it's an absolute disaster to suggest that for a litany of reasons. First, let's talk about the obvious negative of this. It is not a flippant thing to talk about using a nuclear weapon and erasing people from the world in such a huge scale like this. I understand that there are some low yield, like they call them bunker busters and things like that, low yield tactical nuclear weapons that are supposed to be able to bury into the ground and cause explosions and stuff like that, that are supposedly more contained, but we don't know exactly what the sort of fallout for that sort of thing would be. To even talk about this so flippantly, I find to be absolutely disgusting. It is to devalue the lives of the people, not just of North Korea, but around the region, and to value the lives of probably the conflict that would escalate around it, where we would probably see other countries then that would get incensed by this, that normally would be on the side of the United States, that would say you didn't have to use nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are a threshold that we should not cross. Once we do, it will drive proliferation in countries around the world that will want to even better keep up. They'll see that the United States again used a nuclear weapon as a first strike, and they'll want to be prepared and fearful that the United States will do that and will develop nuclear and other WMDs to be able to prevent from that. Now, this is all being done in the name of something that's totally not necessary. First, we don't see the wide-scale escalation of North Korea to South Korea right now. Second, we should be more concerned about people in the United States and things that are going on here. I have plenty of issues that we could talk about going on in the United States. Every time that we get involved with these people in the military-industrial complex that lie us into these foreign regime change wars and things like that, we end up making the situation worse. Thirdly, there's all sorts of other things, conventional ways, if we had to go to war with Korea, that would be more successful than nuclear weapons anyways. There's no need that we need to use nuclear weapons. It's an escalation and a provocation around the world that we don't need to escalate for. And fourthly, there are diplomatic solutions that might be more effective anyways. And even if not diplomatic, clandestine solutions that would be better served. But the same excuse that we'll use in North Korea, we'll use in Libya, we'll use in Afghanistan, we'll use in Syria, and we'll use in any country around the world to be able to say that it justifies preemptive strikes and things of that nature. This will become the norm. It's absolutely despicable, and we should fight against even celebrating it in those causes. The last thing I'll say is this. He says, remember, his position in this is that we should use them. And then he says, but we should never tell people we shouldn't. There's some truth to that, right? I do believe it's one of the things I liked about Trump was that he was seen as unpredictable. I don't want an actual lunatic that's going to drop nuclear weapons like Kevin Castley in office. But I also don't want to tell our enemies, oh, here are things that we would never do. So I would never want to do a nuclear first strike, but I don't mind some bravado letting our enemies around the world thinking that that could be a possibility. But we should never do that. We should not have a nuclear first strike on North Korea. It's an insane idea.
Yeah, so I think what's insane and what is horrible for the people of the region is the Kim regime, and their ambitions are in such a direction that we know what they're doing. And I've got videos on my channel going over their end game. I've talked about this on Superpower Broadcasting. My opponent here, Rob, would imply, is said tonight, that I speak about this flippantly, but I don't. I've thought about this. I've looked into North Korea. For the last 16 years. I've kept up with them since they got nuclear weapons. I've followed their nuclear program. This is not a flippant thing. I don't say this like, oh yeah, it's gonna be super happy fun times. No. I say this because it's either they get struck or we get struck. And the thing is, the North Korean military currently has the capability to hit everywhere to Central America, which includes all the contiguous United States, includes Hawaii, it includes Alaska, Florida. It also includes basically all of Canada is within their range. This is a situation with that regime where we have to take out their nuclear capability before they get to a level where we can't, because Russia's at that level. We don't want another Russia on our hands. We don't want to sit back and wait for them to have 8,000 nuclear weapons. This is a regime that has killed about 8 million people since 1948. Since their inception. This is a regime which starved 15% of their people in order to get those nuclear weapons. This is a regime, mind you, which my opponent would say, well, we should try diplomacy or whatever first. Look, I was making an argument with Russia today on Twitter that we shouldn't go the nuclear route like some people were suggesting, because we can try the economic route. And I think we should try that before we do war with Russia. But we've tried that with North Korea and it did not work. We tried it for 30 years. And every single goddamn time we sit down and do 6-party talks, or we do whatever process over there, and we get them at the table, what do? They always do some belligerence. Then they get us to the table. We make a deal. They break the deal, and then they brag about it after and say, oh yeah, you know what, we didn't actually honor that agreement, but we have the stuff that you gave us now, whether it was fuel or food or whatever. When they give out the food to their population, they keep the American flags on it. They keep the international flags on it. Why do they do that?
Because all right. We're not just doing the Kevin monologue hour.
They're paying tribute to their great leaders.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Not just the Kevin monologue hour. So a couple questions. We'll have some back and forth on this. You suggest that the reason to do a nuclear first strike now is because they could become another Russia. Would that mean that you would have been for launching a nuclear device at Russia if we could have done so before they developed a nuclear weapon?
Well, there were actually plans on the books by the Brits and the U.S. Before the Soviets did first lightning in 1949 and got nuclear weapons, where they had planned about 200 different targets to take out the industrial capabilities of the Soviet Union and to cripple the Red Army in Europe. What that basically meant was, if that had been done, we could have avoided the entire Cold War, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, all this other stuff. We could have killed potentially with China.
That's a clever way. That's a clever way to not answer the question.
Wait. Okay.
You guys saved 100 million lives from communists.
Kevin. Wait. Okay. So you guys are talking over each other like right from the start. So I'm gonna have Rob be able to respond to that.
Right. It's tough to do it, right, because I like to have a back. I can talk in 10-minute chunks too. Everyone watching knows it. So if that's what it's going to be, just monologues, that's fine. I'm trying to have a back and forth. So that was a long-winded way of saying yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Chad, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Norwegian male saying yes.
Fine. Right. Should we have bombed China? Should we have nuked China before they developed nuclear weapons?
Well, you don't have to nuke them specifically, right? So there are only a couple cases. I mean, now this topic about nuclear weapons, I only bring up North Korea because that's the only case today where it's appropriate. I'm not saying go around and nuke Iran. I'm not saying nuke Russia. I'm not saying nuke China.
That's That's different. You're saying, just like with Russia, once Russia had the weapons, now it's difficult to deal with. So that's why we should nuke North Korea first. So I'm saying, should we have nuked Russia before they had the weapons? You said yes. I'm asking, should we have nuked China before they had the weapons?
See, it's a bit more complicated than that. The answer with China is it wouldn't have actually required it. With North Korea, it does because of how buried they are. I mean, I don't know if you know this or not. North Korea is the most underground country in the world. A lot of their bunkers are in excess of 60 to 100 meters below ground. And conventional weapons alone, there simply are not the conventional bunker busters in existence that deal with them. And so in North Korea, the situation is such that it actually requires nuclear penetration in a way that Iran doesn't, in a way that obviously Russia's too late. They've already got 8,000 nukes. Good luck with that. The problem with North Korea is that they've got over 100 right now. And if we sit and wait, eventually they'll have that magic number where they've got enough that they can invade South Korea and they can tell the US to get the fuck out, and America will. And why is that? Because North Korea is going to have enough that even if you shoot down most of them, you still lose all your cities. That's what they're going.
I'll take my chunk of time in a minute, but just one more question before I kind of retort to this. You said that North Korea already has the capacity to strike many sites in the United States, correct?
All of them. Yeah, the Hwasong 16 has 16,000 kilometer range.
Great. So why haven't they invaded South Korea?
Because they don't have a sufficient number of nukes to guarantee that America will stay the fuck out yet. They need about 1,200 to 1,500 to make it work. They have about 100 right now. So they're in the process.
Why would they need that many to make it work?
Because if you're just on the line, maybe America does stand up. If you got enough that you have guaranteed mutually assured destruction, then America, now you've got a very good chance of saying, you know what, you're not going to lose New York and all your cities to save Seoul, so you're going to get the fuck out. And at that point, South Korea promptly surrenders because their war plans rely on America being there to fight. And if America gets the fuck out, they surrender within 48 hours.
So first off, you can see already how his position doesn't make sense, because if that was the case, his argument seems to be they need to be able to cause enough pain to the United States to where they'd be able to, they're just biding their time. They'd love to invade South Korea, but once they have mutually assured destruction, they'd be able to do this. But there's no reason that capacity wouldn't exist now, even if they couldn't completely.
It doesn't.
Please,
no, but it doesn't. They haven't mass manufactured their Topals yet.
Wait, 1 second. We got to let Rob respond.
So they would be able to cause such harm if they were able to hit with 100 nuclear weapons. Explain to me how not. No. So they have 100 nuclear weapons. They could hit any site in the United States.
No.
I can't even hear him.
Okay.
They would 100 nuclear weapons. They would be able to wipe DC off the map. Correct?
You're missing the point, Rob. You're missing the point, Rob. Here's the thing. 100 nuclear. No. I'm going to answer your fucking question. 100 nuclear weapons that they're in possession of right now doesn't mean 100 star bombers. What they have is a few nuclear weapons, which are in the, hundreds of kiloton range. And they've got a lot of smaller ones. And those smaller ones are not miniaturized. The numbers that they've got that are actually miniaturized that they can fit on these long range ICBMs is low. It's low, and it's not enough for them yet to guarantee 100% effectiveness that they could get the US to stay out. They need a magic number around 1,200 to 1,500, somewhere in that range. They're nowhere near there yet, but they will be if we wait 20 or 30 years, if we want to try diplomacy all over again. Isn't that the definition of insanity? It hasn't worked before, and it won't work in the future because they're negotiating in bad faith, and they've admitted it on multiple occasions. Here's the deal. All right. They need to mass manufacture the capability, and they don't yet.
Okay. We gotta respond.
Right. So you can see that already he's kind of changing. At first, he made it sound like it's so bad already that they could hit any target in the United States. Now he's saying, well, it's not that bad.
Well, they can.
Please.
But they can't hit all of them.
Look, if you want to interrupt, the only time you can do that, interrupt after a long model, is if you cage match and just go back and forth. Okay,
let's go cage match. Let's fucking do it. Cage match.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk about insanity.
Rob.
Insanity is the guy that wants to preemptively nuclear strike any country that he's afraid might develop nuclear weapons at some time.
No.
Keep his story straight. A warmonger like Kevin, he couldn't leave me just develop my position. I tried to be polite and ask him questions to point out in a way at leaving him have a chance to respond and set out his position, how stupid it would be. But he can't stop interrupting me, just like every time that I talk to him. So he wants to do this cage match.
You're missing it, Rob.
Bloodthirsty Kevin, who's supporting military-industrial complex and every fucking nonsense war that they have, now wants to do so with nuclear weapons. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do.
You're somebody who literally is content to let the Kim regime rule the Korean Peninsula in perpetuity, perhaps 8-10 million years of absolute horrible misery under that regime for all those people. And you're willing to sit back and wait for them to get enough nukes that going forward for the rest of time, we won't be able to intervene, just as we can't intervene in Russia right now.
The neocons get more fucking insane every day. We need to launch nuclear weapons today, or there'll be 10 million years of destruction of the Korean Peninsula. My God, it'll be a nightmare that you can't even believe. They're going to take over Meadow,
would
too.
sit back
We'll be playing
and
Dark
try
Souls
diplomacy
12 under the boot of
with
the
a
Kim
regime
that
is literally bragged in your face that they took advantage of you and that they had no intention of honoring the terms of their original agreements. They
drop the nukes, right, Kevin? Get them.
They did this in the freaking Hanoi
Dr.
Summit.
Strangelove
They
style.
took
Why don't you
Trump
ride
to
the
the
bomb
cleaners.
down on them, right,
And now you
right?
can't
Is that
wait
what
to
you're
get
gonna
taken
do? Right?
to the cleaners
Mr.
by
fucking
them.
Chicken Hawk
Because
never
you're
saw
an
war he didn't
absolute
like, but won't go fight himself.
100%
Mr. fucking neocon.
isolationist,
Here we go.
clueless,
Woo!
rock
Drop the
dwelling,
nukes, Kevin. Come on, come on.
Neanderthalic,
Where else are we gonna nuke? I'll tell you this much.
jester,
If the Canadian hockey team
and you're
beats
an
us again,
embarrassment.
maybe it's time
You're
to
an
get the nukes out.
embarrassment to the
We're looking
United
at a
States,
million years
honestly,
of
because
losing
it's
to the
your
Canadian hockey
country.
team in the
Because
Olympics.
it's your
A million
country that's in
years,
the
for God's
firing
sake.
site
Don't worry.
of
Their
the
hockey
vault
players are
of their
below the
strategic
earth.
capability. It's your
Did you know
cities
this?
they're going to
Dylan,
vaporize,
did you know that
Rob.
in
Probably
Canada,
not
their
mine.
One
It's
minute
probably
left.
going to be your
are
cities they
below the
vaporize,
earth more
Rob.
than any other
Probably
hockey
going to be
team.
your
We need to
town,
send the
Rob.
low-yield
How does that make you
now.
feel,
Yeah,
Rob? How
low-yield
cucked is
nukes
that,
right now.
Rob?
I'm
That you
not
would
even listening to you,
literally
Kevin. All I hear
that
is
you would literally
just play the
carry
clip of me
water
saying
for a
bomb, bomb, bomb.
regime
Everyone
that's
laughed at me
trying
when
to
I said
get
that. Now this guy's talking about
literally
preemptive
thousands of
strikes
nuclear
on North
weapons
Korea
have the
for
capability
millions
to
of years.
destroy
10
the entirety of your country. And you're sitting here
years.
saying, oh, well,
Kim Jong-il's
haven't done it yet, so they won't do it in the
will be
future.
telling us he
That
also
is
shot an 18 on
monumentally
golf courses. We
reliant
can't
on
stand
a
it. What will
profoundly
ESPN 8
dumb
say
set
about
of
it?
assumptions,
My
a
God, what will they
profoundly
say?
dumb
We better drop the
set
nuclear
of
weapon
assumptions
before they have the
that
opportunity to
you
do
would
that.
trust
Am I right,
an
Kevin?
insane lunatic and his
Like that?
family to never nuke
Right,
you
right,
for the
right.
next 10 million years.
Okay,
You're
done,
full of
done,
shit,
done,
Rob.
done,
You're
done,
full of
done,
shit, Rob.
done, done. Okay, cage match is done. Okay, that's one cage match used. Kevin, I think you have one more, and Rob, you have two. So you can continue.
Yeah. So, anyways, making the point, so you can see how his point doesn't make sense, right? And he talks about lunatics and bloodthirsty shit. Like that's exactly what he is. That's exactly what his position is, right? Yes, that's it. He would have been telling. I bet if we were talking to him 5-10 years ago, he would have been saying, "We got to nuke them now because if we don't, within 10 years, they could develop these nuclear weapons and could, the Korean Peninsula will be taken over and they'll be developing or they'll be launching nuclear strikes in the United States." And then that's what he'll be saying 20 years from now too. If it doesn't
require
occur then.
nukes 10 years ago.
That's what he'll be saying then. And listen, he already gave the rationale for why we should have nuked the Soviet Union before they developed nuclear weapons. There's no reason that same rationale won't apply to every time a country thinks that they're going to develop nuclear weapons. Kevin will be saying, well, we have to use nuclear weapons. We have to use these sorts of things. And it's nonsense. And what you've done is you've given the justification. This is the same type of shit that the neocons did right now with the situation with Russia, right? When we had the neocons in the United States, which then we saw Obama and the left pick up the torch, right? When they started to say, it's okay for us to go into Syria. It's okay for us to go into Iraq. It's okay for us to go into Libya. Other countries listen. And eventually, if we aren't able to keep up with them, right? If we don't have enough of hegemony to be able to stop them, whether hard or soft power, which it appears we don't right now, they'll start saying we could play that game too. So once Russia says we had to use a tactical nuclear weapon against an ally of the United States against Ukraine because we were worried that with the help of the United States, they would develop WMDs and challenge us, what will Kevin be there to say? So I hope you all enjoy World War III.
No, I can answer that.
And I'll real quick, I'll finish. As Einstein said, he said, I don't know with what weapons World War III will be fought with, but I know what World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. So Kevin, if he was in charge, that's the world you're looking at, a nuclear holocaust because he so flippantly wants to fucking bomb people with nuclear weapons preemptively if we think that they're developing nuclear weapons that will
you missed the whole point, Rob. I can actually answer that question about Ukraine because I've already said it on Twitter and on my show. Ukraine's lost. That's an L for Obama and for Biden. It's an L for the people that live there. I'm not starting a shooting war with Russia. They called the liberal internationalist bluff. That's an L for the liberal internationalists. If I was in charge, I would have put troops there before Putin invaded, and there'd be peace today. But I'm not getting into a nuclear war with Russia over Ukraine. So you can try to imply that I would. The only scenario, the only case in the world right now where nuclear weapons are appropriate as a preemptive means is against North Korea. I mean, Iran's trying to get nukes. I'm not suggesting that with Iran because their stuff is nowhere near as buried as with North Korea. They can be taken out with conventional means. Look, I'll tell you this. If I was convinced that there was a conventional way to deal with North Korea, then I would suggest doing that, which you would also oppose because you're just against first strikes in general. I have a question for you, though, which is you mentioned Obama wanted to go into Iraq or whatever. I'm guessing you're talking about Operation Inherent Resolve, the fight against ISIS and everything. Do you think it was wrong for the United States to fight ISIS in Syria and Iraq, Rob? Is that what you mean to suggest?
Well, first off, Iraq, the original invasion of it, we were told that we stuck around to fight ISIS, but the original invasion was, babies and incubators and shit like that. That was a lie. Of course,
no,
we
that
had
was Bush. That wasn't Obama.
You asked me a question, so I'll explain. Obama continued the wars that we saw under Bush, right? At first, the reason we had to go in the first place was because fucking maniacs like you actually supported Saddam Hussein when he was in his 20s and instilled him, just like you always do, just like supporting the Mujahideen. And then you say 20 years later, oh, we got to go into Afghanistan to fight Al Qaeda. You support Saddam Hussein, then say, oh, we got to go in there to fight Saddam Hussein. That's the kind of shit that these neocon warmongers do over and over and over. They've been wrong and a disaster, but they create problems that they then say, oh, well, now you have to rely on us to solve the problem that we created. If you were in charge, the situation in Russia and Ukraine would be even worse because you would have escalated even sooner. Now, particularly to Syria, right? Like when I debate people all the time, fine. If our argument was we're in Syria to fight ISIS, then why weren't we working with the Assad regime that was attempting to fight ISIS?
Oh, come on. Assad killed about 15 times as many people as ISIS.
We
Assad gasses his own people.
Gotcha. You're bullshitting
Assad is a butcher. Bashar the Butcher is a butcher who makes ISIS look like kindergarten teachers in comparison. He makes them look like nurses in comparison. Assad has exacted brutality against the people of Syria in such a way that ISIS could never even dream of. ISIS killed 30,000 people. Bashar the Butcher's forced 8 million people to flee their homes, a country of 27 million people, and he's killed hundreds of thousands of people. He's gassed people. He is a menace. Working with Assad against ISIS is like working with Hitler against Stalin. Dude, you're on the wrong side of history, my dude. You gotta check yourself. This is fucking batshit. Now, to your point about to your point about how the neocons helped the Mujahideen and that created this big problem or whatever. No, it actually didn't. The problem in Afghanistan was that the Soviets occupied the country, killed 2 million people, all this bullcrap. The least that America could do was to support the Afghan people and those that stood in solidarity with them, go over there and fight them. And guess what? They were successful. And you know what that helped to do? It helped to bankrupt a regime, the Soviet Empire, the Communist Empire, a regime that I'm guessing you personally would not like to live under. I mean, you don't really strike me as a communist, Rob. So why are you on the communist side in Afghanistan? Why wouldn't you support the Afghan people overthrowing the yoke of their oppressors? I don't get that. The Mujahideen were heroes.
Okay, so again, first, you can see how simplistic the warmonger nuclear first strike mind is. Obviously, if you're against interventionism, then you must support terrible people and things like that. It's childish. It's fucking
the consequence
stupid.
of it.
The same sorts of arguments that you always see these people make. You must be pro-Putin if you're against interventions in Ukraine and Syria, etc. It's such fucking stupid. It's
the consequence is pro-Putin.
You can see.
I don't care about your feelings. The consequence is pro-Putin, dude.
You understand how this works? You want to use your other cage match so I get your fucking stupid ass 10 million year interruptions out of the way now? Are you going to let me finish my point? Okay, dude. Thank you. I take that as you're going to leave me finish my point.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I think you're full of shit, bro.
Well, Kevin, you do got to let him finish his point, though, unless you want to use your other cage match. Rob?
Okay, so second, you can see, right, how he even tries to go, well, isn't it a good thing we want in Syria because of ISIS, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you push back, he's like, of course we're challenging Assad there as well. Of course he's a terrible person. Right. Isn't it interesting how the neocons and the warmongers always pick and choose what terrible people? They're more happy to support the Assads, right, in their Yemen bombing campaign, more than happy to support ISIS when they were overthrowing Gaddafi in Libya, right? They're more than happy to all of a sudden pile up to all sorts of horrible, tyrannical people when it benefits them, right? But then they try to shame you and saying, well, we have to go in these countries if there's tyrannical maniacs that are running these sorts of countries. Okay, that's Russia's argument in Ukraine. They saw that there was a coup from the same people that you support in 2013, 2014. We have Victoria Nuland on the phone talking about installing Poroshenko in 2014. We know that we also, the United States State Department also supported military extremists.
Installing Poroshenko.
Right. That's
Yanukovych was a dictator installed by Putin, dude.
So I'm going to just keep talking. If you want to
Classic projection.
We'll let him finish. I'll give you time to respond, right? Kevin.
So anyways, the point is this, right? We see that there's all this warmongering that goes on. We could go through the crimes of the U.S. State Department intel agency and stuff is a litany that we could go through. But the point is this, right? If we now give these people the ability to say, and also we're going to use military nuclear first strikes, it's an absolute disaster. There are other solutions other than that. This sort of rhetoric on Korea being as bad as they are, anything could happen. Kim Jong-il could die
North Korea.
Kim Jong-un could die of a fucking heart attack tomorrow, and we don't know what exactly his family or the person that takes over will do. This is better than killing millions of people with nuclear weapons and setting the precedent to our enemies that they will develop more weapons of mass destruction and have a policy of first use, because you have proven to the world, if you do this, if we think that it's our only option, we will use nuclear weapons preemptively against you. It will lead to World War III, and it will lead to a nuclear fallout. That's what would happen.
Okay, so there's a lot to go over there. So you talked about how Newland, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. You must like watching Russia Today from 2016. You sound like Peter Lavelle, Manulin. Here's the deal about Poroshenko. Viktor Yanukovych was a brute. He was a thug. He was a gangster. He was a dude who said he literally released criminals from prisons. He gave them guns and paid them to go up on rooftops over the Maidan Square and start shooting innocent feminists, innocent liberals, innocent anti-corruption activists that were protesting against the fascist regime that was a puppet of Vladimir Putin. That, of course, was Viktor Yanukovych and the Party of Regents. They were successful in overthrowing that yoke. And guess what? They got their own country. Petro Poroshenko was actually a leader. He was actually a leader representative of Ukraine. He was actually a sovereign leader. He wasn't beholden to Putin. And to say, America just installed something. No. There was a democracy that was established in Ukraine. Poroshenko was chosen. Obviously, Zelensky now is the successor of that. Viktor Yanukovych, on the other hand, what did he do? He'd break your knees if you lobbied against him, that sort of stuff. He literally had his goons throw acid in the face of his political opponents. So you talk about this as if it's a democracy. No, I'm not done. I'm not done, Rob. Unless you want to use your cage match. I'm not done.
Just won't listen anyways. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to the point about the neocons. I'm not even a neocon. I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal hawk. I'm not a conservative. I'm a liberal unilateralist. You can talk all this stuff about Wolfowitz and you can talk about Crystal and everything. I'm not those guys. I have a decent amount of agreement with them. But look, you're talking to a liberal hawk here. You're talking to somebody who is, you're talking to somebody who has willing to speak the truth in North Korea in a way that a lot of people are afraid to do because they're afraid of how polite society might find it odd or whatever. Because here's the thing, 30% of the people get this right now, and there's nobody in mainstream media that's even...
18 minutes left in this match, okay? Just letting you guys know.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah, it's just the Kevin
30,
rambling.
No, I'm almost finished. So there's 30% of people that support my position, and we don't even have anybody in the lamestream media that's saying any of this. Now, can you imagine if they actually had a voice? How many people would wake up and realize that for North Korea, this is about us. This is about our own safety, and we need to get rid of that vile regime before they get rid of us, Rob.
Okay, so for example, he talks about how it wasn't a coup when we installed what we want. A coup doesn't have to be that democracy doesn't exist. You could use color revolutions and things like that to convince pluralities of the population through all sorts of nefarious means to vote for the people that you want installed. And we see that the United States specifically chose Poroshenko. That's who they wanted. I feel bad for the people of Ukraine because they've constantly been in this sort of proxy battle between Russia and the United States since the formation of the country in the early 90s. It's constantly been that they have a puppet that's going with Russia or a puppet. There was another sort of coup. What did they call it? Like the Tulip Revolution or the Orange Revolution that occurred in 2003 and 2004. Now, he talks specifically about how Poroshenko was this good guy and Zelensky's the successor of him. Can you explain then why the Zelensky government tried to imprison Poroshenko, which is what they tried to do? Now, I'd stop and let you answer, but you're incapable of giving a brief answer. You'll just ramble on for fucking 5 minutes. So I'll keep talking and you can choose to answer it if you want. But the reality is we see that our State Department, our intelligence agencies aren't the noble people that Kevin will have you believe. They constantly decide to work with dictators and decide to work with brutal people when they think that it benefits them in some way. And then they selectively point out the ones that they say, this person's uniquely brutal, and so therefore we're justified in doing a color revolution or doing bombings or things like that. And there he goes. He can't. Right there. He can't.
Should read
just can't. Right. So anything to justify the preemptive strike of nuclear weapons because we're stopping 10 million years of tyranny. 10 million years. I'm glad that you're becoming even more hyperbolic. You say that you're not a neocon. That's fine. I know that a lot of leftists are taking up the mantle of the neocons once carried. Some of the leftists that were the most anti-war people that I know now support wars as long as people on their side are for them. This sort of escalation is what provokes countries from saying that we need to militarize and we need to posture and saber rattle, etc., because we are worried that these first strikes are going to come and things like that. The fact that you're even discussing doing this with North Korea, let's say that it happened. Like if it happened in the next week or so, or the next 6 months, that we decided to nuclear first strike North Korea and wipe them off the map. What do you think Russia's thinking now in this context? What do you think China's thinking?
Well, now they're actually scared of America. Now they take America seriously, Rob.
I'm going to keep
now
talking.
They take America seriously, Rob. You just asked me a question. Now they take America seriously.
Okay, wait.
You always see this.
Okay.
You
I'll
see
give you
this.
I'll give you another 15 seconds, Rob. Okay.
Right, chicken hawks like Kevin that will want you and your kids to go to
Bullshit,
war.
bullshit.
They're never
Okay,
fucking willing.
I'll give him. I'm giving
Okay,
him
you know
15
what?
seconds.
I'll use the cage match. I'll
Okay.
use the cage match.
Okay,
We're almost
sure.
out of time. I'll use the cage match. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah, you
Okay,
call me a fucking chicken
Kevin.
hawk. You call me a fucking
You
chicken
going
hawk.
over?
Dude,
You
you're
going
not
over to North
willing to
Korea?
go and
You
live in
going?
any of these
You going to Ukraine?
regimes that you
You going
defend.
over?
You wouldn't
You got-
live.
you-
You
are
wouldn't
you
last a
going? You
day
going to fight
under
China?
Gaddafi. You wouldn't last
He's
a day
gotta
under
go over
Saddam
to stop
Hussein.
10
You wouldn't last a
million
day under
10
Kim
million
Jong-un. You would
years
not
of Kim
last.
Jong-un's
You wouldn't
family.
last an
10
hour in
million
the
years of
gulags over
tyranny.
there. Yet
This
here
guy
you
needs to
are
go.
sitting
Here he
at your
goes, right?
desk.
Oh, but why isn't he offering to go to war in Saudi
in the heart
Arabia?
of the
What about the
first
people in
world,
Saudi Arabia?
privileged
Why
in
aren't
the
you
heart
offering
of
to
the
go to war
first
there,
world,
Kevin?
doing
Right?
stupid
This is the
memes
constant
in
bullshit that
service
they
of
engage in.
dictators,
This
in
is what the
service of
fucking-
dictators
this is what
that
the
would have you
warmonger chicken
tortured
hawk
and
follows do.
executed
Oh,
if you were
don't care about these people.
unfortunately
If you
if you were
fucking
unfortunate
did
enough to
military,
actually
Kevin,
be born
didn't you
there, and you're
fucking
fine to
get the vote passed?
condemn
Get the fuck
swaths
over
of
North
people,
Korea and fight
hundreds
them,
of
Kevin.
millions of
Why wait for the
people
nuclear
to
first strike? Why
perpetual
wait for it?
tyranny
Don't you care
under
about the people in North
tyrants
Korea, Kevin?
that would
Don't you care?
literally
You're
execute
unwilling
you
to
and
do
your
it yourself. It's one of the
family
dumbest fucking
for
arguments I've ever heard.
espousing
That
any
if
of
we're
the
not
views
for
that you hold about
insane warmongering that people
libertarianism
like
or
you
liberty or
suggest,
any of that
that
sort
all
of
of a
stuff.
sudden that means
It's
that
a
we're okay
blatant
with
total
suffering of those people. It
embarrassment.
is
It's an
blatantly
utter
obvious to anyone who
embarrassment.
remotely
You
pays
should be
attention
absolutely
that you're
ashamed of
just
yourself. The
fucking
fact that you've got
encourage
the American
doing
flag in the
these sorts of things
background,
collectively
yet you're
in the areas
content to
that you
shell
want. You
for
don't give a fuck
regimes
when U.S.
that
allies are
literally
doing these
aim
things. You don't
nukes
give a
at your
fuck when the
country,
CIA's
at
backing
your
all sorts of terrorists
family,
and things
at
like the
your
Mujahideen and
town,
shit like that. You don't
at
give a
your
fuck when they're backing
friends.
people like Al
They're
Nusra
aiming
and ISIS in Libya. You didn't give a
bombs.
fuck about
They're
that.
aiming
You didn't care about
fission
any of the families
bombs.
that suffered
They're
after
aiming
that because
chemical
you're a
weapons at
fucking
you. They're
chicken hawk.
subverting
That's who
your
you are.
democracy.
You're a fucking
They are
coward. You just
expansionists.
want
They
to
are
promote warmongering while
revisionists. They
you're
are
unwilling to go to
you're
war yourself.
dentalists.
And when
And
called
they are
out on
going
it, all
to
you can do is
bury
just
you.
ramble on
And
and
they're
say,
going to
you
have
don't
the
care about the
world.
poor people of
And
insert
they're
country
going
that
to
you don't give a
bring
fuck about
about
either.
the
You don't
downfall
give a
of
fuck. If you
everything
gave a fuck,
that
you'd
we
be there. You
believe in,
wouldn't be
such
waiting
as
for the United
freedom.
States. If you give a fuck, you'd
And
get
you
boots
are
over there.
content
Right? But
to
you won't
watch
do it.
their
And you call the
balls,
cage match
and you are
because, you know,
content
you
to
never
rub
shut
their
up. This is every
backs
time I debate
and
you, it's
lick
the
their
same fucking sort of
feet
thing.
and
Just
do all
your fucking
manner of
warmongering,
dictator
insane bullshit that
apologetics
you
for
repeat
them,
over and over and over
because
again.
to
You have to
you,
constantly
war is
interject
the
and talk
worst
over people
evil
because you're such a
of all
weak-willed man.
time,
That you're
but
like
living under fascism
you're like
for
the guy with the little
millions of
pee-pee or something,
generations
right?
in
Like,
perpetuity
oh, I
with
just
no
don't have
hope.
confidence, so
Well,
I have
that's
to
not
put on
that
a fake
bad, but
bravado.
war bad.
Like
No,
somehow
I
that
got
means that
news,
I'm doing
dude.
something. I sound
War
better
is
when
a
I'm constantly interrupting
surgery.
people.
War
You
is a
sound like an asshole.
surgery. It is
Go
a
over there, then,
temporary
Kevin. Go
surgery
over. Why
to
won't you, Mr.
rectify
Chicken
the
Hawk? Why won't you?
tumor
You think this is
of
intelligent conversation?
fascism.
You think this is good?
And
You're
the
the one
fact
who
that
wanted
you
to
would
do this. You
rather
wanted to
live,
just talk
well,
over
you
me the
wouldn't
whole
live.
time.
You
It's
won't be
fucking
there
worthless,
because
so
you're
I'll
a
just go
coward
through
and
the
you don't
cage
have the
match
balls to
right
go
now
and
that you're
live
a
under
fucking
any of
chicken
these
hawk,
regimes
right? I
that you
don't have to go
defend.
live there because I live in the United States.
You'd rather
You're the
lick
one
their
who said that
boots
we
from
should
afar
involve.
like an
This is one of the
absolute chicken
dumbest, most
loser
childish,
and a
fucking stupid
pigeon-pilled
arguments in
Okay,
the
okay,
Chester
okay,
Pill
okay,
goober.
okay. Wait,
Chester
okay.
Pill goober.
Goober. Okay. So, I fucking, it's my favorite Kevin insult, goober. Okay, so.
I know, right? It's a banger.
Watch that SpongeBob movie, huh?
It's a flipping banger, bro, and you know it.
Okay, so that was the end of Kevin's cage match. Now return to normal moderation. We have about 12 minutes left in the match.
Okay, so I'll finish up what I was going to say. It's one of the, like, not only is Kevin just a bloodthirsty chicken hawk warmonger, right? His arguments are stupid, but he can't even follow logical progression of, like, there he goes, interrupting again, right? He can't even follow directions in a debate, and he can't even follow larger progression of ideas, right? So he says this. He says, I think that we should nuke people. I think that we should go to war in all these places. And I'm like, well, then why don't you go? And you say, well, you're a coward because you won't go live in the places that I'm saying we should bomb because of that's one of the dumbest fucking arguments I've ever heard. You're still a coward.
Think the second I join the military?
Wait. I will give you time to respond,
loser, sack of shit.
No, you, Rob.
Nuclear first strike pushing fucking warmongering chicken hawk asshole. Let me finish there, Mr. Goober. So I'm somehow doing. If you cared about
well,
these
that's what you
people.
are, dude.
Wait,
You're
you gotta-
going to try to shame me and say I don't care about the people or I would move there. Well, you don't care about them, or you would go there and fight even if there wasn't a nuclear first strike. You fucking loser. You always see this in these chicken hawks, right? They try to
fail.
make this moral case, but they're absolved from it. They're not going to go. Their kids aren't going to go. We need wars all across the fucking world, all across the world, but not him. He's not going to go. Fuck him. Fuck this warmongering bullshit. You're the reason that we have so many of these foreign policy issues around the world. And every time that you're proven wrong, you just act like
I'm a Captain Planet villain. Ooh.
Wait, you
got babies and incubators going there, Kevin.
Okay, so here's the deal. So you said, oh, but you won't. So you want to do a nuclear first strike on North Korea, but you're not going to go and join the military and do it. So you think I'm more powerful than Joe Biden? You think I'm more powerful than Justin Trudeau? You think the second I enlist as a private in the army, we get to nuke North Korea? If that was the case, and that took out that regime, and we just liberated 25 million people and took out a regime that's been a menace to the world for decades, killed 8 million people since 1948, did a war aiming to do more wars in the future to take over territory, and me simply enlisting in the military would solve that problem, and I get what I want, I would join in a heartbeat. The fact of the matter is, we live in a political culture right now where me joining the military won't do anything because we've been infested with people like you. I'm not going to pretend like you alone are responsible for this the way that you think that I'm responsible for all these wars. I mean, you must think I'm more powerful than Ronald Reagan. You must think I'm more powerful than Joe Biden. It's kind of flattering, honestly, Rob. No, it's not just you. It's millions of people like you that have been brainwashed by Russian propaganda and other fascist propaganda to basically do the America first. Oh, who cares about foreign babies, all that sort of stuff. Look, the fact of the matter is the culture that has been inculcated in the West and the era of cringe, as I call it, the last 10 years, is such that if I join the military, it's not going to make a difference. But if I use my platform and social media, which I do, to change people's minds and get people thinking about this stuff, well, now we're actually doing a lot more for the cause of world liberation, world liberalism, world human rights, world sexual freedom, world women's empowerment, all that stuff. Me doing push-ups at a base in Canada isn't going to do anything. Right. And if it did, I would join. If there was an agreement that I join and we go and we take out Kim, I would join. But that's not going to happen, and you know it. So cool concern trolling, Rob. How about you get an actual serious talking point, you fucking hack?
I did have serious talking points, which you did everything you could to not let me speak unfettered and constantly tried to interrupt. Then you wanted to do a cage match and call me cool words like a goober. Talk about 10 million years.
You can use your cage matches.
10 million years of the Kim Jong-un regime. My God. They'll develop nanotech and he'll live forever, you fucking idiot, right?
Well,
and again, it's the same shit, right? So two things to say here, right? No, he's not going to go because it personally won't help, but he'll send your kids, right? And he says, no, I'm just talking about a nuclear first strike. No, he's not. Listen to his full positions. In Korea, he wants to use nukes. What did he want to do in Afghanistan? Would you say 10,000 troops should have stayed there? What's he want to do in all these situations? Please, you're incapable of answering. You're incapable of answering.
I just answered your question. 100,000.
Right, you're interrupting again. So shut the fuck up.
I'm literally answering your question. 100,000.
Shut the fuck up.
It seems like a rhetorical question. We'll let him continue.
So anyways, right? Like, so he wants these sorts of things all over. But notice it's selective. He's not talking about Saudi Arabia. When are we invading? When are we invading Saudi Arabia? He isn't talking about that. He isn't talking about a bunch of other US allies.
Let him finish.
He isn't talking about all these other U.S. allies, people that we have working relationships with, right? That do terrible things to their population. He's very selective in who he's...
Why would you invade your allies before your enemies?
Please shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up.
Why would you invade them before your enemies?
What we would do is use the fact that there are allies to no longer be allies with them if there are these humane monsters that you're talking about, right? Like the regime in Saudi Arabia.
That makes no sense.
They're useful to be a liberal, and yet they execute
No. You can't go to war with the world at once. No, you.
We gotta let him finish his point. I'll give him another 20 seconds.
I want. Kevin, who just wants to go off on 10-minute monologues and then interrupt anytime I'm trying to talk. I tried to do this. Everyone saw how I tried to start the debate, to ask you simple questions, and then you would just expound on and on and on. Then before I even got a chance to speak, you were like, let's have a cage match. Just shut the fuck up. If this is how it's going to be done, this is how it's going to be done. You selectively choose. You say, well, they're our allies, so we're okay with them killing gay people. We're okay with the human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. That's fine. We're okay with that. Why would we invade them? As long as we're... Well, I guess then why not just become allies with the Kim regime, Mr. Genius, right? The point is, you talk out both sides of your mouth. On one hand, you say, these people are so heinous that we need to go to war with them. But we could be allies with heinous people as long as we think that it benefits us in some way.
Kevin?
Okay. Yeah, no, I've actually got a video on my channel, Superpower Broadcasting, called What About Saudi, though? And it goes over all of these points. Here's the fact of the matter. I actually hate the Saudi regime, but here's the thing. I also recognize we live in the real world, and you can't go to war with 100 countries at once that you've got human rights issues with, because most of the world are pretty bad guys, varying degrees. Saudi Arabia is pretty bad. Rob Noerr is actually anti-war. That's his whole point. So let's say, what about Saudi Arabia? And then let's say I said, sure, let's go into Saudi Arabia. Now he called me a warmonger and all this. So he's totally disingenuous about it. He'd say, what about Iran? Because I'm talking about Iran tonight. I'm talking about North Korea. And he's like, well, what about Saudi? If I said, yeah, let's take out Saudi, he'd say, what about North Korea? What about Iran? So it's just moving the goalposts. And here's the fact of the matter. You work with some bad apples against worse apples, because we did not inherit this world. This world is a very fucked up place, and we have to take all the help that we can get. And the fact of the matter is, sometimes we have natural allies and sometimes we have natural enemies. North Korea is an enemy. Saudi Arabia is a natural ally, and we can use that pressure diplomatically and economically to pressure them to reform. And they're actually doing it. Now, it'll take 100 years, 50 years. That's better than doing a war. If you can pressure these useful allies of yours that are bad, pressure them to be better without having to do a war, that's better. But then with other countries where you can't do that, like Iran and North Korea, well, now war's the only option on the table, because if we wait and we keep trying diplomacy, which hasn't worked, then we're going to wind up in a situation where they are now in the upper hand and have thousands of nukes, and they can bury us with, Rob, you claim to be America first or whatever the hell. Seems like you're putting America last right now, because it's your town in their crosshairs, dude. It's not really mine. So
all right, so
5 minutes left.
So again, these are the same sorts of arguments that you would have heard Kevin making about why we needed to intervene in Libya. We had to back al-Nusra and Islamic extremists. So back home, we're told that we had to give away we had to have the Patriot Act and give away our Fourth Amendment rights and things like that, because Kevin says Islamic extremism is so bad, we have to go with the neocons when they're violating our rights, because Islamic extremism is so bad. They're such the boogeyman. Then we align with Islamic extremists in places like Syria, in places like Afghanistan, in places like Libya. We align with them because we say, well, the other guy's so bad. But then he says, but sometimes we have to align with bad guys to go after worse guys. So we're told back home.
Don't break the rules, Kevin. Chat will tell me I need to go drop a nuke. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So that's all right. I'll talk the whole time. He had his fun. So then who have you believe is back home we have to give up our rights and stuff because Islamic extremism is the #1 threat. But then we have to ally with them in places like Libya. And then all of the State Department talking points, the intel talking points. And again, we're talking about as high stakes as you could possibly have, dropping nuclear weapons. That's what we're talking about here, right? We can see over and over and over when they said we have to do this, it'll make things better. It becomes a disaster. They said we have to do this, it'll make things better in Afghanistan, supporting the Mujahideen. Led to a disaster, led to 9/11. They refused to look into the people that financed 9/11 that was from Saudi Arabia. Kevin's okay. Kevin's fine with that as well, right? They said in Libya, NATO told us, oh, Gaddafi's such a bad dude. The country will be much better if we just support these noble rebels. Gaddafi was saying these aren't noble rebels. These are actually Islamic extremists. So we backed the Islamic extremists. They overthrew Gaddafi. And then we saw what happened to our embassy in Gaddafi. We see what happened to the country of Libya. It got worse. This happens every fucking time. Every time. And yet he still sits here with a straight face and is like, the problem is we didn't intervene more. The problem is we didn't ignore. And now he has a new talking point to go along with it. If we just nuke the shit out of the country, if we just do that and completely demolish the country, then we don't have to worry about it backfiring us in the future. But he doesn't see the consequences of how this precedent for nuclear first strike will be adapted and will be adopted by people around the world who will understand at that point then that they have to create their own WMDs, and particularly the countries that already have those WMDs. They'll understand that it is now justified if they say that there's a potential hostile actor that's going to attack one of their allies, such as we say we're worried about South Korea, who's our ally, getting invaded. So if Russia says we're worried about our ally Assad getting invaded by Turkey or by the United States, they will be justified to preemptively nuclear strike because they'll say, well, that's the precedent that's been set.
But that's already their policy. They already have a nuclear first use policy.
That's the sorts of things that we'll see. Right?
That's already their policy.
Insane warmongering that you see.
But that's literally already their
just because
policy.
he tries to cover it because he says, but I'm actually a liberal. I'm actually a
You
liberal,
don't
so it's okay. It's okay.
know the situation. Russia already has
it's
first
absolutely
use.
insane. Like, again, I thought
Russia
you
and
agreed not to
America
talk
both
over me
have
and to
first
follow by
use.
the rules while Dylan was gone. Can't even do that. We know, right? This is constantly what these pro-warmonger people say. They constantly are like, we need to have color revolutions. We need to have foreign interventions. We need to have
Color revolutions are based, Rob.
we need to drop nuclear weapons and things like that. And then when the situation becomes worse, they always say it wasn't our fault. We should have went further. We should have went further. That was the problem. We should have dropped more bombs. We should have had more troops. We should in perpetuity have 100,000 troops in Afghanistan. We don't know for how long. And we can say the same thing, I'm sure, about a litany of other countries. He says when I talk about Saudi Arabia, it's just this sort of whataboutism. No, it shows that the underpinning of his philosophy that claims to be moral and justifying these interventions is horseshit, because he picks and chooses when to do them. He says sometimes we have to work with bad actors, and yet they selectively choose working with bad actors that oftentimes are worse than the people that they say that we should be going after. They'll arbitrarily say, so why aren't we working with ISIS to fight Assad if Assad's worse?
Okay, wait. So we only have literally a minute left, and so I'm gonna have to go to outros, and so I will allow Kevin to. I'm gonna go probably. Rob, do you want to speak first? Or you want to let Kevin go first?
It doesn't matter.
He can go first. He can go first. I went first for the intro. So.
Sure. No problem. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, how long do I got? 30 seconds? You said we get a minute?
30 seconds to a minute, yeah.
And then I'm asking these questions that's stalling even further, thereby taking into the time that I'd have to.
Yes.
It's real simple. No, we shouldn't preemptively use nuclear weapons. Warmongers like Kevin are wrong and try to lie us into wars all the time. They're unwilling to go fight for them themselves. It's disgusting. Even talk of legitimizing this sort of thing is absurd. But I'm not surprised that someone like Kevin would do it, who's always been a chicken hawk and a warmonger. And every single time his solution will be more violence, more overthrowing, more weapons. And in this case, as heinous as you can get, nuclear weapons.
Kevin.
Okay. Yeah. Great debate. Thanks for hosting, Dylan. So very quickly here, like, this is about us. We're not talking about leveling North Korea. We're talking about liberating North Korea, and we have to neutralize their nuclear assets, their command and control. We're talking hardened, deep underground military targets. We're not talking civilians here. Obviously collateral damage happens, but we're not talking cities. And I just want to be clear, before anybody strawmans me on that, I think it's very sad how my opponent talks about, his values, the libertarianism, conservatism, all that sort of stuff. And he's such a sad little goblin that he would sit here and big up Gaddafi and Assad and defend Putin. And I think it very clearly shows you today the absolute depravity of relativism. And in order for us to take our civilization back, and in order for us to secure a world that's safe for democracy, we have to be proactive, we have to be strong, and we have to be based, and we have to get real. Thank you. So you can follow me at Superpower Broadcasting.
You plug that shit constantly. I like the
100%.
I gotta say, this is probably gonna be a highlight of the night. That was entertaining to watch from start to finish. And it's entertaining for me because, like, I disagree with Kevin fundamentally on his stuff, but then, like, Rob, and I'll be like, okay, I'm on Rob's side. Then Rob will start saying stuff about, like, babies and incubators, and, like, about 2003. I'll be like, okay, now I'm back on Kevin's side. Just kept fucking flipping back and forth.
You believe the babies and incubators?
Well, no, you said you misquoted it. We're talking about something that happened in 1991 when you're talking about Obama's invasion in 2003.
The original,
the 2003 invasion had nothing to do with the babies and
incubators. I meant he said, how'd we get there originally? It's the first Bush.
But you were talking about
You're talking about Obama
invasion, yeah.
Right, but I went back and I talked about Saddam Hussein was originally installed in his 20s.
Because you're a disingenuous hack.
Okay, no. Okay, that's not okay. I'm supposed to be unbiased, but I'm not because I'm a hack. So we're gonna go throw it to the judges, and they're gonna throw it to me. I can say the audience was divided. We throw out who won, and it was literally split down the middle.
Oh, really?
It was literally split down the middle.
Let's flip and go, because I was at a disadvantage, man.
It was 51-49. Rob got you by 1 percentage point.
Ooh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for the spooky hockey dude.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Yes, I agree.
49% in Dylan Burns chat. This is a liberal internationalist chat. Like, I'm in the lion's den here. You know,
you are in the lion's den. I think what it was is that what it's just the energy was like so 50-50, and I think it was exactly what I said, where he'd get into specifics and we disagree with him on specifics like Operation Inherent Resolve, but then we'd get back to the main topic and they would disagree with you on the main topic, and then everybody also likes it when you call people goobers. People find that
I mean, it's also good when it happens to be true, which is 100% of the time.
So the judges are throwing it to me. This is the first in Hippy Dippy Championship history. We have a draw.
We have a draw.
A draw from the judges. One voted for Rob, the other voted for Kevin, and the last one just said draw. So this is actually a draw for the first time. Split judges.
This is history, man. We're making history tonight.
This is history. Now it's a draw. Neither of you have an L on your records. Neither of you have a W either, but both of you have a draw and probably one of the better matches we've ever had.
Well, I think it was a fun, entertaining debate. So I think that's a W for everybody. So
That is true. Unless you're a victim
Kevin proved
of a
that he's
nuclear bomb.
incapable of leaving someone finish thought without interrupting. And he's a
except
disgusting
you're kind of a
fucking
side
warmonger.
goblin who
and
cares that you're
congratulations to
liberal,
those
that your libertarian
congratulations to those that want to
values
nuke
don't
countries.
matter
No, that's
because you're
fine.
down to ball
That's
wash
fine.
for
I don't give a
Gaddafi
shit.
and other dead despots.
No. You can keep using words like ball wash.
Well,
The
no,
reality
but
is-
it's
the
literally,
reality is a
okay.
fucking chicken
literally
hawk like
accurate.
you
That's what you did
would lick
tonight,
the
Rob.
asshole of Dick Cheney or Donald
Rob,
Rumsfeld and ask
look,
if you can
here's the
have
thing.
seconds. You fucking want to be
You know you took the
Yeah,
L. You
but-
know you're
I
sweating.
didn't
You're
take
like,
the L.
please don't let me take
What
the
are
L.
you talking about?
You got a draw, and now you're trying to snatch the L from the jaws of the draw.
What
And
are you
I gotta
talking
say,
about?
it's pretty goblin pill, dude. It really is.
What
Not
the
fucking-
fuck
it's,
is, what is goblin
so-
pills?
It's good.
I don't even know what that means.
well, it's like the Kremlin goblin, right? You know. So here we are.
You're
Here we
a
are.
fan of Putin if you're against nuclear.
Well, no, the
first strike.
consequence
That's
of everything you
fucking
said tonight
hilarious.
was
The
in Putin's
consequences of
interest.
everything
I don't
you
actually
said-
care if you
No,
love him or
that's
hate him.
bullshit. The
You're gonna
consequences
act
of
in
what
his
you
interest,
said
bro. You're
was
gonna
that
act in
you-
his
Okay.
interest.
So we're gonna
stupid.
if you guys want to keep going back and forth, you can have a personal call. But we have commentary team and we got to plug. We got to get ready for the next thing, which is the tag team championship. Thank you both for doing this. I can honestly say this is one of my favorite matches I've ever had on the show. It was really good. Thank you both.
Oh.
We might have to do a round two. Thank you both for
We'll have
coming
to
on.
do round two. We'll have to do a round two. I'll be doing a post show on my channel after the whole Hippy Dippy Championship is over. So if you
Thank
guys
you very
come by in a few hours, I'll be talking about how I
Okay.
think I did and how
Awesome.
I think that Rob
I gotta-
did. So
Okay.
You keep plugging yourself, man. You keep doing it. You'll get
Right,
those
well,
nukes.
See you later.
peace.
Okay. Bring in the comment. Holy fucking shit. What a match. My God. What a match.
Woo!
Whoa, my God. What'd you guys think of that one? Now that's a cage match.
Now that's
That
a,
was a lot of fun.
That is a
was
cage
two
match.
titans.
can I
Two
just say
titans.
the best thing to
fighting.
come out of that was goblin pilled. I've never heard that before, but I definitely want to hear it again. We have to make goblin pilled happen. Okay, guys?
Oh my God. First thing I want to say, what do you guys think of the judge's decision?
I think
I agree.
I agree. I said the exact same thing as you did. I kept on saying, well, yeah, Rob is right here. I'm on Rob's side. And then then he would say some like fucking crazy shit. And I would have to say, actually, Kevin Cashley, he's sounding pretty basic.
You want to
right
know
now.
what I think it was? I think it was this. Number one, if Rob would have just stayed on the nukes and didn't get into specifics about Assad or
Yeah,
Ukraine or any of that, then it would have knocked it out of the park because it's an easy position to debate, right? But when
But
he
the
got
second
into
you
those
start defending
specifics, then
chemical warfare people, yeah.
he got into specifics, and the problem is, even if Rob is right on the specifics, Kevin Castley knows so much about foreign policy that he just has all this information he's going to throw at you because he studies this thing like crazy. And so that was the main mistake Rob made, and Kevin was able to get the draw, I think, by adding that with two good uses of cage matches that made it like in a phone book, like in a phone booth fight that I was talking about earlier, and that's how I think he was able to grab it. I was interested though, because I thought if Rob used his cage match just like we saw in the last one for Kevin Castley's ending statement, that I think he could have possibly got the W. But he didn't, and I think if he'd done that, I think he would have gotten it. It was literally a perfect match where both of them could improve their game before the next one, and honestly, probably one of the better Hippy Dippy matches we've ever had.
Yeah,
Can I
I did
say,
not know that they hated each other so much. I felt like there was some genuine vitriol
That
there.
was
I
a
like to see it.
grudge match. You want to say something, Gabe?
Absolutely.
Can I say? I think when Kevin said that North Korea could rule for 8 to 10 million years,
8 to 10
that was
million years.
that was an L, all right. And also one other thing,
It wasn't an
that
L.
was a huge L. And the other thing, like, listen, it can be kind of funny to kind of plug your channel mid debate, but he is too much with it, bro. I don't know what you guys think. I think that he crosses the line to cringe.
I like it because I just
Flip and go.
as a creator, I respect the grind, and so I was respecting his grind set there.
Yes. I think the cage match format was made for those two titans
For
right
those
there.
two.
That was
Absolutely.
beautiful.
For those
Huge
two.
personalities.
Great, I think that was a
Yes.
great last second decision by the chief
Judges.
executive. Yeah. Great last second decision
wait.
for a cage match.
Do,
Oh my
do you
God.
think so? This was so Dylan, just to recap, of course, as the commentary, this was the second matchup between these two, right?
This is the second debate I've hosted between them. The first one
So-
was just like this, and it's on my channel. And if you want to go check that out, you can also watch
Is that
on stream.
Superpower Broadcasting? Your
Yeah,
channel?
it's super. But man, these two go at it every time like a phone booth. I love it every time. You know, and it feels like watching like a Marvin Hagler versus Hearns. It's like
Well,
like
I was gonna ask if
oh
there's
my
gonna be a
gosh.
third match. Is there gonna be a third
There
matchup
has to
now? Yeah.
Now it feels like we need to
trilogy.
follow up. Put these two Hell in a Cell, right? Oh my
The
God,
trilogy, the trilogy.
grudge match. It feels like we
I-
need
I-
that trilogy. Yeah.
I think Twitch politics lexicon will forever have jester pilled goober. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I love the goober talk. All right.
Goblin
It's
pill.
Goblin pilled goober
Goblin
man.
pilled, jester pilled. Wow, Kevin was on fire tonight. And Rob
He
brought
was
that
on
energy
fire.
he always
He-
brings. I love Rob.
Wait,
I disagree with him on
sorry.
everything, but I love him.
I just want to say, do you guys think I've noticed that Kevin has recently tried to follow in my footsteps and grow out his beard? Do you think that the beard is helping him establish his dominance in these debates?
I think
think-
it was, but I think it's getting too wild. It's getting wild.
is.
Yeah. You need to
Hit me up,
straighten that
Hit
shit,
me
you
up.
know?
Hit me up. I'll give you some grooming tips, bruv.
My goodness, what a match.
Oh.
By the way, for everybody at home, this show cost over $2,000 to produce. It was a very expensive program, and we'd appreciate any donations, subs, or anything you could throw to make the show what it is, because it's sink or swim with this. We're a brand new promotion trying to make it in the world, and if you want to see more content like that, I can only do it if I can feed myself and pay the people who make this show possible. The editors, the graphic designers, the musicians, the everybody who goes into this. And I would appreciate the bookers, even the bookers, and the writers. I don't know if you guys know this, but we actually have writers for the show. Yes, we do. And so I'd appreciate anybody who throws that towards us. Thank you very much. My God. How would you guys rate that? If you had to judge it, would you have judged it like the judge? Would you believe it's a draw?
I think I think a draw. I think a draw was a fair. It's like when both fighters just leave the ring bloodied as fuck, limp, both are barely hanging on and shaky legs.
Absolutely.
That's how I found it.
Absolutely.
What happens when an immovable object meets an unstoppable force? I think that is what that
is what
debate
we
was.
just answered today. What do you think, IRI?
I think it was a total draw, and we need to see a third match between these guys. The trilogy must happen, Dylan. It's got to happen.
It's got to happen, and it needs to be under the Hippy Dippy Championship. It will be a grudge match if it happens. We'll have shoot promo interview. We'll do a fight signing. We'll do one of those where they just come in, do a face-off, everything. I'll fly them out. We'll do it in person, man. I would love to do that. If they are willing to fly out, I will host it in person.
You know what would be actually a really good idea? A debate, and then like at a certain point it gets so heated that they actually go into a ring and like box. Like let the
That's what
like,
the new cage match rule is.
You know how sometimes for promotion and stuff they'll like meet up and be like, fist to fist. In this one, the promotion
Yes.
will just be a debate, and then they go right into a boxing match.
Somebody
as it
just
gets- as
donated.
It gets called the goober pill.
Somebody just donated for me to say Putin can throw the fat one, and I am happy to say that. But now, so Sanso, would you also agree it's a draw? So everybody here agrees it should be a draw then. Basically everyone.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it? So I think that also shows how I think fair our judges are here. That they did not, even though all of my judges disagree with Kevin. I disagree with everyone disagrees with Kevin. But due to the performance that he did, and due to him getting into the weeds with Rob and his use of the cage matches, he was able to get away with a draw, which I didn't even think was possible in this matchup because of how much ground he had to pick up. But his personality and how he carried himself really brought him to the draw line here.
Can I say I appreciate that? I think Rob. Everybody knows he's like he's a very good debater. And he has he's very talented when it comes to speaking. I would say I don't think any of us can deny that. And I think that it was admirable that he tried to start the debate, kind of just kind of asking probing questions and whatnot. And I was actually surprised to see that Kevin was the one who was you know, trying to dominate the speaking time and so on, and it forced Rob to kind of adopt back to his usual Rob Noerr style.
That
I
is
found that
true.
very
These two
interesting.
were perfect for this matchup. And I also want to say, for everybody who wants to support Hippy Dippy directly, if you don't want to donate or sub or any of that, if you don't use those type of things, or you're on YouTube, we have a Patreon, Patreon to chat. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, one of the tiers, you can actually have your name appear at the end of Hippy Dippy Championship and Round Table Debates. And so you can have your name appear so people know that you are directly supporting this promotion. You are supporting HDC for life, motherfuckers. Hey, you. Yes, you. Right there. You. I am starting a Patreon. I know you guys have been asking for it on the YouTube crowd for a while, since usually it's just the Twitch people who could support me financially directly, but we're finally making a means for you guys to do so as well. And that's not all. You can support the #1 cyber terrorist, mover and shaker, Vince McMahon of Twitch politics. How? By donating to this Patreon and getting benefits like movie nights, special Discord roles, announcements at the end of the video of how much you have supported this war criminal Dylan Burns TV, and much, much more. Okay, not much more, okay? I only have limited means, but more than that, I can assure you. And if you support the Patreon, you will have my deep-hearted appreciation from the bottoms of my soul that you are truly a mover and shaker. Thanks so much for your Patreon money in advance. I will use it to continue to fund the liberal elitist agenda.